Bonjour, I'm Christophe, the owner of Chateau de Burnand. We are in Burgundy, about 15 minutes from Tournus and 10 minutes from Cluny, just in the middle of the vineyards. The vineyards from Saint-Jean-Gou are just 3 kilometers from here. And I'm going to show you around Chateau de Burnand, which we bought about 1 year and a few months ago, and we entirely renovated. Just to give a little background on what we are doing. We are passionate of renovation of old buildings, and in 2009 we bought our first chateau, which was Chateau de Burnand, close to Chalon-sur-Saône in Burgundy. And today Chateau de Burnand is project number 6. We search for chateaux which are in very bad condition. We talk about here the roofs, the facades, the inside. To take the examples of Chateau de Burnand, the water supply was a lead pipe coming from the forest, and the water was coming from an underground tank. The electricity was a 20,000 volt cable coming to a generator dating back to the 70s. The electricity was dating back to the Second World War, so there was quite a job to restore all this. Each of our chateaux are renovated with the idea to do a self-catering holiday rental for groups of friends, for family reunions. So you rent the chateau and you are the king of the chateau during a week or 2 weeks. So it's a privatized chateau that our guests from the entire world rent for a week holiday. Before we take a look inside the chateau, you can have here a global view. When we bought it, it was hearth roads. Obviously there was no swimming pool. Just on the side of the chateau you see one of the most ancient parts. This was the guard's walk with a rampart, so dating back around the 13th, 14th century. The tower that you see here also dates back to the 13th, 14th century. There was a roof. We have an old painting in the entrance hall that I will show you, where you can see how it was some centuries ago with a roof on the top of the tower. Okay, so I think we are gonna take a look inside. Follow me. All right, now we are in the entrance hall. As I explained outside, we started here everything from scratch. The first part of the job was to remove all the electric cables, all the plugs, all the pipes, the water supply. We just kept, in fact, the walls and the roof. And inside, we had to cover all the walls in every single room with plaster plaques. And so often we had to remove first the wood panels in this part from the 19th century and put them back afterwards. There was a lot of work done on the floors. Here, for example, you have a mosaic decor in the entrance hall. There were a lot of scratches and a lot of pieces missing, so we spent a little bit of time to restore all these. On my left-hand side, it's nowadays the dining room, and on the right-hand side, the billiard room. So let's take a look to the billiard room. So you can see the parquet, which is made of oak. We had all the parquets in every single room of the chateau to restore. There was a lot of humidity in the past decades, and a lot of beams under the parquet had to be changed. Fortunately, with the restoration of 5 previous chateaux, we had a stock of old parquets which we kept, and we could restore the parquets here with the stock we had in hand. Here you can take a look at the ceiling dating back from the 19th century, but in the continuation of the visit we will see more interesting ceilings than this one. Typically in this room, my wife Sylvia is a decorator, and she spends all year looking for paintings, the lamps, the curtains, the piece of furniture that will make the decor in each room that we restore. Every room has got these marble fireplaces. Here we are looking at a 19th century piece. And so now we'll take a look at the dining room. Follow me. So typically, when we restore a chateau, we keep in mind that the purpose is to welcome groups who are going to spend a week holiday. And we have to bring a certain comfort. Here the room was quite dark, so we did everything we could to bring light, and I think we succeeded. We've got the nice view on the valley, on the swimming pool, and we have worked on the colors, on the lights. And again, here I have to say a word about the parquet. We will find the same parquet in the living room afterwards. This is a very nice parquet where it's the first chateau we restore where we found this type of structure. These black lines are in fact at the 19th century, they were burning oak to make it black and inserting these oak lines into oak pieces. And when we bought the chateau, half of these inserts were missing, and it was obviously very difficult to follow the same technique as in the old days. And we found a supplier in Belgium where we could buy a substitute to these inserts, and we have repaired the parquets in both rooms and I think the result is quite good, because you can't see any more of a difference between the original inserts and those we have repaired. Well, let's go further. We're going to take a look at the big kitchen. Here we are. So now we have just arrived into the oldest part of the chateau. The back part was built at the 16th century, the front part at the 19th. We have a very interesting ceiling here. At the 16th century, it was very common in Burgundy and elsewhere to have painted ceilings. So we think here the decor is original, but it has been restored a few times. We restored it ourselves. We had to scrape all the plaster that was damaged and to make mixture of different paintings to try to find exactly the original painting. So in this room where we organize the kitchen, it's the 6th chateau that we restore, so we've got experience of the last 15 years welcoming guests from the entire world, from the US, from England, Australia, European countries, etc. And the profile of the guests that we welcome are groups of friends who spend the week or family reunion. And when you have a group of 15 persons, for example, who spend a week together, there has to be things we thought so that you create a friendly atmosphere. For example, here in the kitchen, we always make a central space where people can be together, to cook together. We've got the huge gas cooker, exactly the same model as you find in restaurants. We have 3 fridges, 2 ovens, and we made sure that everything that makes noise, the dishwashers, the washing machine, are put in another room at the back of the kitchen so that it doesn't disturb people who want to have breakfast in the kitchen, for example. Here, like in some of the chateaux we restored, we could have the dining room and an area in the kitchen where you can have breakfast or lunch at the same time as you have a part of a group cooking. Right. So in the living room, here again we have exactly the same type of parquet which we saw in the dining room. But this room was divided in 2 when we bought the chateau. These were 2 rooms. We had a wall there, and the living room was too small. So we destroyed the wall. So we found a hole in between the 2 parquets, and we used the oak parquet we had in stock to cover this hole. And the decor on this part was very different to the other part. So we had to create an illusion that this has always been one big room. So we created some similar panels, exactly the same panels as we have on the other walls of the room. You will find very often in all the rooms of the chateau these ancient radiators, and we don't know anything better than that. This is so efficient to heat the chateau, even if heating the chateau is very expensive. But these were in very bad condition, and we had to sandblast them, repair them, some were leaking, but now it's all done. This part is all done, and it's a very good system for winter. So this living room, we tried to create a cozy atmosphere with very comfortable sofas and a TV connected to internet. We had a lot of work also to bring internet everywhere in the chateau, because when you have walls which are 1.2, 1.3 meters thick, the signal is very difficult to go through. So we created a network to make sure that internet reaches every room and even the swimming pool area. So about the fireplace, in every chateau we restored so far, we always kept a fireplace functional, either in the living room or in the dining room. Here it's the fireplace from the living room that we have restored. The marble had a lot of impacts, and the fireplace marble was even split in two. So we have restored everything. And this fireplace works great, and it creates a fantastic atmosphere in low season or during Christmas holidays for people to get together around an open fire. Now we're going to take a look at the old tower from the 16th century, just behind the living room, where we organized a poker room. Here we are. This has become now the poker room. It's very funny, but in the three recent restorations we did at Château de Montrevaux and Château de Mont-Simon, we had space to make a room to play poker. And it has been so popular. So we used this tower to do the poker room. Here the ceilings have had to be very much restored because they were in terrible condition. But when we will go upstairs to visit the bedrooms, that's where you will see the most interesting ancient ceilings. Just behind you, we presume there was here a kind of chapel at some point of the early 1900s. Up. And we haven't touched that. It was there when we bought it. It's probably the protection of a chateau. Right, I think we'll take a little look at the guard's room, which has become an office. Right, so here we are in the guard's room. So this is probably, we are talking about origin around the 14th century. And the rampart that you see here had a roof. The tower that you see over there had a roof too. In a few minutes, when we will have visited the upper floors with the bedrooms, we'll go and take a look there. The view from the tower on the roof of the chateau, which has varnished tiles like the Hospice de Beaune, and the view on the valley with the medieval origin village is very interesting. So this room, we have organized it to make a little office with USB connections and Wi-Fi like we have everywhere for people who want to send emails or work a little bit during their holiday. Okay, so now we've seen the ground floor. Let's go to the upper floors. So we have, by the way, 2 staircases to reach the first floor. Here we have a stone spiral staircase which covers the 4 floors, if I count the underground. And on the other side, we have the main staircase, which was built at the 19th century, so going to the floor with the bedrooms. So while we are going upstairs, the wine fridge, very important in Burgundy. This is a part we absolutely didn't touch. In the main staircase, we think the paintings are original from the 19th century and must not have been so much restored. This is a very interesting stone staircase and ramp with these decors. Right, so here we are in the first floor hall, which is actually the division between the 16th century part and the 19th century part. So here on this floor we have 6 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms for 2 persons and 1 single bedroom. Here we will start to visit the first bedroom. Well, the first room. The difficulty in a project like ours to create an environment for people who come on holiday is to be able to create a bathroom associated to each bedroom. It's so common in France that you have chateau owners who have inherited and who decide to restore a little bit the chateau, to rent it, to cover the costs. In our case, it's a project. We sometimes visit 6, 8, 10 chateaux which are for sale before we find really the chateau where we know we will succeed to cover all the points we have in mind, like having absolutely a bathroom associated to each individual bedroom and never having a bathroom that's shared between 2 bedrooms. So it requires often to remove the parquets, to create rooms that don't exist, to destroy walls. But at the end, what's important is that the visitor doesn't see that, and that everything which had to be destroyed and rebuilt still looks exactly the same as it was at the 19th century. So in this room in particular, again, we have a beautiful oak parquet. The beds that we use are tempur Silly, which is the highest quality that exists in the hotel industry. And that's very important for people who come on holiday, to have a good quality bed. We are just going to enter the tower from the 19th century, where we have a very interesting vaulted ceiling. Here the parquet has got inserts of different types of wood, and we had a lot of work to repair this parquet because there has been water infiltration for some time. So we had to remove many pieces, change the beams underneath, and in some cases be able to find some pieces of wood to complete the puzzle because it looks like a puzzle. And about the ceiling, because in this room you see this cupola, and the painting is original from the 19th century. And this type of painting they were using in these days was almost powder. If you put your hand on this painting, you've got like floor on your hand. So the only way to restore that would have been to scrape and erase the painting, which we didn't want. So we left it exactly as it was. And I think this has been untouched since the construction of the chateau. So this tower, which is associated to a bedroom, we decided to create an office there with USB plugs, etc., Wi-Fi, for people who want to do a little bit of work during their holiday. Right, now we're going to see a very interesting bedroom which has the Cluny 16th century LED type windows. Follow me. So in this bedroom we are back into the 16th century part of the chateau, and with this interesting ceiling, which for sure was already painted at the 16th century, probably partly with this decor, but it has been restored. For every single ceiling in the chateau, we had some restoration work ourselves, because the plaster was quite damaged, and the paintings were quite damaged. But what's interesting in this room, it's this side. We call this vitraux de Cluny in French, and these windows have LED inserts. The glass, for the vast majority, have been of course replaced since the 16th century, but are more than 100 years old, for sure. I often come to work here during the night for the restoration, and when the sun rays in the morning, and when I was working in this room, it was so nice to see the variation of colors coming into the room. And actually, talking about these Cluny windows, when we'll be outside later on, you will see all the columns from the 16th century, which are on each side of each window and which are original, but that will be in a few minutes. So, to finish with this room, here typically we had a wall that we had to destroy and recreate at the back with a double isolation. It's very important. We use a type of material that creates a sound isolation from one bedroom to another. We needed to gain some space to be able to bring the beds and some space for the clothes. And we use the tower from the 16th century at the back of the room to create the bathroom. Well, it's part of the concept and the criteria we impose to ourselves to have always a 1.60 m per 1 meter minimum shower. Our guests really love that, to have a huge shower in each bathroom. Now we're gonna take a look to the next bedroom, which has a very interesting ceiling. Follow me. So back again into the 19th century part of the chateau. Here I'm a big fan of this parquet. We had again some work on restoration. In fact, as I explained at the start, all the restoration inside the chateau we do ourselves. We don't use any craftsmen. With my wife, my son-in-law, a team of technicians, we cover joinery, plastering, plumbery, electricity. To take the example of this parquet, altogether in the chateau, I think it took us 3 months' work with 2 persons to restore everything. Like I explained in the tower of the first room we visited, these inserts were quite damaged at some areas, and all the interest of this parquet is to see the mix of different essences of wood, which makes it, so unique. And in this room, we have the ceiling that's also very interesting. The decors are original. We had, when we bought the chateau, there was a big leak in the roof, and all the decor on this side of the ceiling was totally destroyed. We could hardly see the paintings anymore. And so, again, here we had to repair the plaster, change some pieces of wood, make some mixture of colors to find the original colors, and then to make this new painting looks old in the idea. So here we go into the bathroom. So it's unusual to have a fireplace from the 19th century in a bathroom, but it was there, and we thought it was a good idea for people to put their things. All the bathrooms, we always use the same concept. The huge shower, 160 per 100 minimum, and modern equipments, but still keeping the decor and bringing with the tiles that we use a mix between authenticity and modernity. Oh, by the way, before we go out, I wanted to say a word about the job of my wife, Sylvia. She's, as I explained earlier, she's a big fan of decoration, and she spends a lot of time choosing the mirrors, the decoration, the lamps. We often find old lamps, sometimes even on flea markets, and our electrician in the team is changing all the cables, and Sylvia is repairing the gold parts that are damaged, so that we really bring an atmosphere inside that makes you think of a 19th century period. This piece of furniture, like all those you saw during the visit, is typically the job of Sylvia. We often buy these pieces of furniture which are quite ancient and that people don't necessarily like because of the colors, because of the style, and she spends a lot of time to sandblast pieces of furniture and either to varnish them or repaint them in the same style as the colors of the room. Having said that, now we go to take a look at the 14th century tower top. So here we are. You remember? We were over there in the guard's room earlier after having visited the living room. And so this is the direct access to the rampart. We created all these balustrades which did not exist for security, of course. We had good relationship with, by the way, with the architect from Historical Monument, who gave us advice and instructions on the color we have to use for the walls, for the restoration of the walls, the windows, the style of balustrade that we had to create. And so this was formerly the guard's walk, the old rampart from probably the stronghold that was built here. We have the 14th century tower. This tower had no floor. You would get into the door and there was a gap of about 3 meters. So we created a concrete platform. We had in the attics some old pavements which we picked up. We sandblasted them and we use a mixture of lean oil and a type of essence to revive the colors of these old pavements. And so the idea with this 14th century tower, which is just next to the pool and just next to the dining outside area, we created a swimming pool bar where we have a fridge, a dishwasher, coffee machine and some crockery so that people don't have to walk to the kitchen to pick up what they need. So we gave a new life to, to the 14th century tower. We can take a quick look inside. This is one of the things that we have not finished actually. Next week the team is working in there to create the furnitures and finish the restoration. And then we'll have a walk on the staircase to see the beautiful view. Follow me. Oh, here something to mention. This is typical of all the small details we had to work on. The door that was here, which was very old, was such in a bad condition. A lot of the pieces of oak were totally rotten. So we had to find ourselves some old pieces of oak from old doors that were not in use anymore, and to take these pieces of oak to repair the door. We use the old nails, which we had to remove, and that took an awful lot of time to restore them. There was a lot of rust, so that we could make this door alive again, as it was in the old days. And as I said, we picked up these stones. We call it tomate in French. They were in the attics. And in the old days, often in chateaux, they were using these tomate, these pavements, to protect, to make a sort of protection between the attic area and the underfloors, protection against fire, for example. So we created a concrete platform because there was a almost 2 meters 50 gap here. And as I said, we are busy creating here a swimming pool, bar and small kitchen. It's just, it's not finished yet. The vaulted ceiling was in terrible condition when we bought the chateau. It was a mix of bricks and stones, and a lot of them had fallen down. So there were lots of gaps, and it was not waterproof. Water was coming. Every time it was raining, water was coming in. So we had to restore the vaulted ceiling and restore, obviously, the flat roof on the top, which we are going to see in a moment. So let's go there. So here we are. This is the spot where we have a great view. So here, as I said, we had really a problem of waterproofity on this floor. So we had first to place a kind of material that makes the roof waterproof and create a 2 centimeter thick type of cement which copies rock. And from here you can have a look at the roofs. All right, we did not completely remove all the tiles because this would have been a huge job and it probably not in the budget. But we spent a lot of time on the repair of the roof. You can see, we call this in French tuiles vernissées, translated in English probably varnished tiles. It's typical of some areas of Burgundy. The most prestigious place where you find this type of roof is the hospice, the prestigious Hospice de Beaune. Fortunately, we had a stock of these tiles in the attics of the chateau, which were left there by previous owners, and we could use them to repair especially the roofs of the towers. As I said earlier, a big part of the job was to restore all the walls outside. As you can see, the facades are completely renewed. And from the top of this tower, we have a great view on the valley. The vineyards are probably 3 kilometers distance from here, and we can see a few of them at the back. Just outside the front gate and the walls, you can see the small village of Burnand. This little hamlet has probably 80 souls, and each house is made of stone, and it's a great decor around the chateau. We have a church just at the entrance of the chateau, which is classified as an historical monument. And there are paths with yellow signs starting from the entrance gate. And it's very popular. This village is very popular for people who like walking. These paths take you for hours through the forests and the mountains. And then if we take a look on the other side, you can have an overall view of the dining area and the swimming pool and this beautiful tree. By experience, for every of the 6 chateaux we have bought and restored so far, we always had the feeling that there was a tree which was planted to conclude the construction of the chateau in the old days. And this tree is the oldest tree we have in the park. The park is about 12 hectares. So we decided to create the leisure and dining environment all around this tree. During winter, when we were busy with restoration, it was really a pleasure with my wife when we could take a break on Sunday afternoon to come with the dogs. We have 2 golden retrievers, and just have a seat under this tree, enjoy the view, take some time to walk in the forest. And there is a, I don't know, here there is a special atmosphere. It's quite relaxing. Now, we have seen the 14th century tower. We should take a look at the back side of the chateau so you can see the restoration we have done on the 16th century towers. Let's go there. So here we are at the back of the chateau, which is the oldest part if we take away the rampart and the underground. This was built at the 16th century. We have the huge round tower here, where we have got the back kitchen and the bathrooms of the bedrooms we saw earlier. Then we have this other 16th century tower, where we had the poker room and another bedroom on the first floor. This was a job to restore the facades, because when you see the height, and we had to climb on the roof to do the restoration of all the walls. Here, as I explained, before we bought the chateau, the water supply was a lead pipe coming from the forest. Burnand in Old French mean source. In English I would say streams. There were a lot of natural water springs in the mountain, which were bringing in the old days water to the village. And so you can see the old lead pipe is still here. And that was the lead pipe bringing water to the chateau. Obviously we removed that and we brought water supply from the village. And this piece has been probably here for much longer than the 19th century. Well, now we have seen the back part of the chateau. I promised you earlier we would take a look at the 𝐒𝐂𝐑𝐈𝐁𝐄 windows, where you can see the columns, and we are just about to be there. The 𝐒𝐂𝐑𝐈𝐁𝐄 windows and their columns. So we are still on the 16th century part. And you remember this was the bedroom we visited earlier. We haven't touched these columns actually, they were in very good condition. So let's have a little walk to see our dependencies. We haven't yet restored the dependencies. They are exactly as they were when we bought the chateau, except on the way there is an old hunting lodge with a little pond, which we restored at the very start, and where my son-in-law lives to take care of all the gardens and keep an eye and do the maintenance. So let's have a look there. Well, this is the hunting lodge that we first restored with its little pond. In the old days, the water coming in this little pond was the springs coming from the mountain, and the springs were going further to the village to go to wells and old lavoirs. So here we restored everything, the inside and the outside. So this way we go to the dependencies. Here on your right you can see the old bread oven. The bread oven was very common at these times in chateau dependencies. Of course it's not yet restored, but this bread oven we could cook probably 20 or 30 pizza at the same time. So here in the dependencies there is, as you can see, some work in progress. We haven't done much, but we first of all worked on the roof, which is the start. So we repaired the roofs. We had to find a stock of tiles which were similar to those existing. All the ground floor barns. In the old days, at the 19th century, it was a working farm for the other farms in the village. That means there were only horses there. We still have in some of the barns the horse stables. It will take us probably 1 or 2 years before we can start working there. But the idea probably, because we have another gate, we have another land behind this building, the idea is probably we will close the entrance on this side and open on the other side and create another accommodation here, which will be a totally different style than the chateau. But the idea will be to create a pool and a Mediterranean environment garden here, which would fit well with this square and inside courtyard impression. You see the wagons which are above on the first floor here. I don't know how long they have been here, but probably these wagons date back to the late 19th century. Okay, we will probably not see everything of a dependence, but let's take a look at the horse stable. This horse stable, we will remove them and use them to create in this side a kind of bar which will be facing the pool in our future project. So it's this way. Well, of course, for the moment we use the space to store everything, so nothing has been yet organized here. But we will pick up these stones. We have stones like that on all the floors of the stables. We will take these stones to create little roads, because we have a project to make a mini golf like we did in one of our other chateaux at Chateau de Burnand, which is very popular for the children. So we'll probably keep these stones to do that. And here you see the stables I was talking about, which probably have been there since the 1850s. And they are quite in good condition for their age. So we'll restore them, we'll remove them from the room and organize, as I said, a bar area which will be close to the swimming pool. But that's another project. So I think we've been around most of the parts of the chateaux I wanted to show you. But if we have forgotten something, you still have a chance to come and see by yourself. We will open in 3 weeks. Here we have accommodation for 15 people. Everything is ready for you. The swimming pool is at 28 degrees. The kitchen is ready. Our first guests will come from the US, and these guests, we know very well, have been visiting 2 of our other chateaux in the past. So thank you so much for your interest, and hopefully see you soon in Burgundy, the land of heart, good wine and gastronomy.